All right, so we're gonna go ahead and set this guy up for winter. So first things first, we're gonna pop the lid. And we've got bees in the top, which is a good sign. Means they're patrolling this area. We're gonna take a look at our honey box that I left. I'm not seeing any hive beetles running around, so that's a good sign. Don't have any wax moths up in here hiding from the rest of the colony. So that's good. I'm gonna take this fruit box off, or honey box off. This honey box is empty. I left it on there just in case there's a chance that I might get a little extra honey, but it doesn't look like it. So we've got our top brood box right here. I'm gonna go ahead and clear out the bees on the top so I can clean this burr comb off. I like to clean as I go when I go through inspections. If I try to dedicate a day where I'll just go through all my hives and clean them, not only will I spend a ton of time doing that because of all the buildup, but I would also just never do it. I'll just keep pushing it down the road. If you have any propolis or beeswax you want to collect with that bird comb, by all means, get a can or a jar. I got a Folgers cup right here full of nails, but you could use that style of can to collect all that stuff. And over time, it really does add up. But you do want to make sure that you have a way to keep your bee yard clean and you don't have a bunch of that stuff piling up, because that can attract pests like raccoons and skunks and things like that. Let's do our 2-finger test here. So lifting that up, I can barely lift it with 2 fingers. I can lift it with 3 fingers. So what I'm doing right there is just testing the weight of honey reserves. What I'm doing with the 2-finger test is I'm trying to make sure that there's enough food in that box. Super unscientific, but it's just kind of a good general way to look at the hive. It's a quick test. I grab that bottom brood box there, and if I can lift it up with 2 fingers, especially if it's a struggle to do that with 2 fingers, then I know that they've got a decent amount of honey weight in there for the winter. At this point, if there's a hive that is really struggling with mites, it's been my experience that you see a hive collapse, or that colony has swarmed, and you'll see evidence with varroa mites in the bottom floor of your hive. I have tried to keep those alive. I have never successfully kept those alive over the winter. So I honestly, one of the reasons that I'm waiting until middle to late October to deal with this is that if there's any colonies that aren't going to make it, I don't have to deal with them. If you are someone who's looking into getting into beekeeping, I can't stress enough trying to get local bees, because I have done lots of bee buying online, and all of those hives have been super high maintenance. I've had very low success rate in bringing them through the winter. So I highly recommend making some swarm boxes or buying from a local beekeeper who has had those bees for several generations in their bee yard. And that way you know they're going to be adapted, they're going to be tough, and they're going to be much lower maintenance. Okay. There's old Grandpa AJ there flying over. We're going to go ahead and treat it with Apivar. That's a full box. Excuse me, bees. So we're gonna add our Apivar strips. And I'm gonna cheat when it comes to Apivar. I'm not going to pull these back out until spring. And I know that is not what the back of our instructions say. But I have it on good authority from my bee guru who's been doing this for years, that he leaves them in all winter, just purely out of convenience. And his argument, and I think it's a good argument to be made, is you do get a longer mite treatment for this. So there is some value in that. But it does not harm his bees to leave it in there. This is plastic, so it's not going to absorb any moisture. And he doesn't have to worry about trying to get into these late in November or something like that after they've sat for, I think it's 6 weeks, and then trying to pull these out. I do want to put in a disclaimer that I have not done all of the mite treatments over winter. I have done 2 mite treatments over winter, and that is the Hop Guard and the Apivar. And those are very similar in terms of their setup and the length in which they need to stay in the hive. The Hop Guard is made of like cardboard, and so the bees will just kind of chew that up, but you'll still need to clean out some of the strips later. And again, I'm relying on people with more experience than me, leading on my mentors who just leave the Apivar treatment specifically in over winter, and they have had no problems. So take that for what it's worth, but I wanted to add that disclaimer real quick. I've got a group of them right here, so that's where I'll stick these other 2 strips. And then we'll add our sugar box. Just slowly drop it in here so we don't squish any bees. It's always my luck that I'd squish the queen first. Put another one right in here. Just somewhere in the middle, away from the edges. So as it gets cold and they move to the center, they'll have some exposure with that strip. All right, now we're ready for our sugar box. We've got some newspaper here I'm gonna lay over. Like so. I'm gonna need a 3rd piece. So I'll go get a 3rd piece. Might even need 4 pieces. Yup, I do. But that is okay. We're gonna wet this down so it'll kind of stick. The bees will also start chewing on it. They'll feel that moisture. It's not too cold. The condensation's an issue right now, but it will be in January. So for now, a little moisture is okay. Now we're gonna add our sugar box. And this is just a furring strip that I have used some finished nails and some glue to stick together. It fits right on top, just like a honey box would. And then we're gonna fill this in with sugar. 10 pounds of sugar will fill the volume of this space, and the newspaper simply keeps it from drowning your bees below. What this will do is 3 things. It will insulate the top. So I've got about an inch and a half of insulation now because of all the air pockets in between the granules of the sugar. In addition to that, it will be a condensation wicker, and so it will absorb any of that condensation that normally can be a problem for Langstroth hives, especially during the winter. And so that problem goes away, and it's recycling the moisture, and so the bees can come back and feed on that sugar and absorb some of that moisture again. And then 3, it's obviously feed. The wet paper will also start wicking moisture into the sugar, so as the bees chew through the sugar, you now have rock candy instead of loose sugar, and that will prevent from collapse. Also, once we add sugar on top here, I will be spraying the top, and it doesn't take a lot of moisture to get that sugar to really harden, and that will prevent it from collapsing in on your bees. This is why I use this as a feeding method. I don't even use syrup in the fall anymore. I used to use syrup in the fall, especially when I tried to buy bees, because they just couldn't seem to get enough sugar syrup or honey into their box fast enough, and so I really laid on the sugar syrup. This saves me so much time to do this. This is similar to making fondant. If I ever want to check on this in the winter, I can simply take this lid off, look at it. If there's a whole bunch of sugar gone, I can just lay more newspaper on the top, get it wet, pour more sugar in, get it wet, and then close the lid and be on my way. So it's a great way to check on your bees in the winter without disrupting them. So we're gonna put our winter cover on top. Excuse me, bee. We're gonna put our lid on top of that, and as you can see, it covers the edges of that sugar box. So any snow melt's just gonna fall off the edges, and then we're gonna rip off this excess right here. And it just comes right off. And on to the next hive. If I'm really cranking through my hives and the bees are in good mood and I got plenty of light and I'm just rolling, it takes me about 5 to 6 minutes to get through each hive. I would rather do all of my work on site than do half of it in the kitchen and do all the extra dishes and then go back over and still have work to do in the bee yard. So this method allows me to do it all right there on the beehive, and then again gives me a good way to check up on the bees if we get a warm day in the winter. So hopefully this was helpful. If you have an even better way that saves you even more time, please let me know in the comments so that I can learn from you guys. So hope you found this interesting. Thank you guys for watching.